Brendan Mortensen here from the PNC Digital Desk, presented by PNC Bank. Brilliantly boring since 1865. Orioles pick up a win. Here's Tony Mansolino.
First of all, how's Trump, and also just how difficult is it to lose your DH that early in a game?
All right, so Trumpy, lower back strain, most likely he'll end up on the IL tomorrow. He was struggling moving around right there. Pretty tough to kind of go back out there for the next inning and catch. Did everything he could to stay in the game. That's the risk you take when you DH the second catcher. There's a lot of teams across the league that do it constantly. You know, if you get in that scenario, that could happen. So we were just hoping that Gary stayed in the game, because if Gary didn't stay in the game, we'd have been in a little bit more trouble right there. But the fellas hung in there. It kind of kept landing. We didn't really have any long relievers, so we didn't really need a double switch. There was one possible double switch early in the game with Mayo, right when it happened, but that didn't really make sense, because when we wanted Mayo to, that's kind of the development, winning the game, things that you think about all the time. We didn't want to pull Kobe in that early, so left him in there. It worked out. Hung in there. So
the emotional swings of extra innings, from home runs that you guys hit, home runs that Doris Garcia hit, then coming back in the 11th. What was that like to experience in the dugout?
A little bit of disbelief at times. Even both on offense and when we're throwing the ball on defense too. So that's kind of a classic. I told Klimek there in the I think it was the 11th. I said, hey, man, we're going to be talking about this one in the next 10 years. You remember the first game of the dads trip in 2025? I was just hoping we'd pull the thing out so we could pull the dads in the clubhouse after the game, let them drink some beers with us, and I'm glad it worked out.
How impressed were you with the way Felix was able to get out of that 10th inning?
It's huge stuff. I don't love that they're able to steal second and third the way that they did. Felix stuff is so big that it's kind of a tricky predicament, where if you make him be a sub 1/4 to the plate, is the stuff going to play the same? So historically, there's a lot of closer type guys with huge stuff where guys run on him. We've seen him at times control the running game a little bit better, but fortunately he does have that type of stuff to kind of escape the situation that we got ourselves into.
Were you surprised that Holman rounded third and headed for home in the 7th inning when there's a ball that skips into center? That whole play?
For me, I'm anticipating that to happen right there. I don't know if I'm surprised or not, but in my mind, being in the big leagues the last 5-6 years, we've seen that happen. I mean, we saw Gleyber Torres did it to us a couple years ago in New York, and then we've done it to a couple teams as well, similar scenarios. So, for me, once that crowd noise goes up, our middle infielders got to hear it, and they got to know something's going on, and we got to get the ball and get it in as quick as we can. So, heck of a play by their player. A lot of guts by the third base coach, by Bees. He's been doing it a long time. He's really good. If we put the throw on the money, he's probably out, but that's a gamble you take as a third base coach.
How stressful is it as a manager to get to find yourself in the situations you were presented with tonight? You got to give up the DH. You got to let your starting pitcher hit. You've got a thin bench. I mean, it just seems like that must be difficult from a creativity standpoint.
I don't know if I get super stressed out. I stay pretty level in a lot of ways. For me, it's just trying to figure out the solutions to all the problems that are going to come that we don't know are there yet. So you're sitting there just praying that we don't lose Gary and what that's going to look like if we do. You're trying to figure out if there's going to be where the double switch is going to land, if we're going to do it, if we're going to need it. You're trying to figure out where everything's going to land. So it's not stress for me. It's more just trying to figure out and problem solve.
Trevor Rogers looked great on the mound, but how did he look at the plate?
Say that again?
How did he look at the plate?
Yeah, I told him that if he swung the bat, I was going to fine Gunnar Henderson $10,000 in the middle of the game, and he kind of smirked, and I think he thought I was joking. So Gunnar Henderson owes me $10,000. We'll see how that goes. That might not go so well for Gunn, but we told him do not swing the bat. I mean, he's got a history of swinging it, obviously, with the Marlins in the National League. I think the rule changed in 22, but, if runners were on base, we would have had him by if he felt comfortable with it. Unfortunately, we didn't get to that point, so, it just kind of worked out the way that it did.
Did the fact that he had National League hitting experience before the DH was universal, did that play into the decision at all to go ahead and let him have?
Well, we had no choice. Yeah, I mean, he's throwing the ball good. He's got to stay in the game, but the last thing I wanted to see him do was swing the bat and see another pitcher bite the dust. So, he hasn't been swinging the bat ever, since 2021. So, takes a swing, pulls an oblique. My goodness. So just fortunate that we got through it, fortunate we won the game, fortunate it worked out the way that it did, and just happy.
It's the second time Gary Sanchez had to check in for another injured catcher. He's taken on more of that role, but also he's been hitting the ball really well. How do you feel like he's handled sort of that extra load?
I mean, Gary was an everyday player in New York on some really good teams. So I think, as we see him hit, it's because he's playing so much. I don't think Gary's had much of an everyday role here the last few years. He's played a lot in different places, but he's feared, man. I mean, he steps in the box, and the pitchers know who he is. I mean, it's a major league at bat. It's a threat. It's damage. It's all the above. And we've been happy with how he's been calling the game. He's been doing a good job behind the plate. So we've been really thrilled with Gary.
Was there a point just to clarify on the Rogers hitting twice? Was there on either one of those at bats? Was there a thought of pinch hitting, or you got a bench?
The only way you could have kept him hit once was double switch Mayo out in the third inning. As I explained before, to me, you don't want to. We're playing Kobe for a variety of reasons right there. One, to help us win, and two, we need Kobe to get at bats for his development in the big league. So I didn't want to pull Kobe, and also the way it kind of landed a couple innings later, his first and third one out. And he got the at-bat against the lefty. So that was actually probably the right spot, right thing to do.
That's all here from the PNC Digital Desk presented by PNC Bank. Brilliantly boring since 1865.